Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert. Welcome back to the TED Show. This is one of my favorite series on the show. It's Heroes Always Welcome, where we celebrate and spotlight veterans in our community, talk about the transition out of veteran life into civilian or in military life into civilian life. And today I have Mike Goins on the show. He is a veteran. I met him at the Wellness Center, New Dimensions Wellness Center, which you all know by now. I am a member of, and I absolutely love them. And we started talking. Mike has a great social media presence. He's also an amazing therapist and does great work. Coach Mike. Mike, welcome to the show, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me on.
I'm excited to have you on. I love when I find veterans that are willing to share their story because it's just so important to the community. I think you and I talked about this. Sometimes that transition out of military service can be daunting. You go from a very structured life to a very unstructured, no loyalty kind of scenario, especially in the corporate world. And so vets tend to struggle with that transition back into civilian life. And so we're going to talk about all of that. But like I said before we went live, the audience loves to know a little bit about you. So I will be quiet and let you share the background on you, buddy.
Just my background, everything from the beginning, or
you can start wherever you'd like. I've had people start at birth, literally. Okay. And yeah, so if you don't want to start there, that's good. But anything,
I got you.
The show is yours, my friend. The show is yours.
Awesome. So originally from California, moved there when we were 7 years old with my mom and my stepdad. The street where I'm from was nice for a while, and then it turned into not such a good street, you would say, right? A lot of gang affiliation. I was never a gang member, but not being a gang member causes you to fight more. So that was an interesting time. I was there from 7 to 17. Wow. We moved then to suburbia, which was really nice. And that was cool. And then from there, I moved to Houston because my real dad is a lawyer and he lives in Houston. So hung out in Houston for a while, got to know my dad more, and he structured a little bit of my life, told me a couple of things that I needed to, hey, this is better ways to being successful this way, right? Which was very awesome and definitely helped me out. From there, I became a sales manager for a company called Buckle, and I was also a life and health agent for insurance. So I was about 29. But during that time, I was just feeling like, I had money, I had a nice car. I love BMWs, had a nice BMW, lived in a gated community, but it wasn't enough. I was 29. I was just like, this is not enough. And then one day when I was at Buckle, I'm looking out at the mall and it's like, man, I'm so bored, right? And then a guy comes in and, he kind of has a rugged look to him. He's just, we're talking and he's like, I asked him, what do you do? And he's like, well, he's ex-military and he, sets up comms and different things in Africa. And he's out there just doing different things. And I always wanted to join the military, and I've always been more of an extreme guy. Like when I'm a dancer, so as well as when I was a b-boy, which is known as breakdancing, right? Love it. And skateboarding and all that stuff. I've always liked extreme things. And I'm like, man, I always wanted to go. And then another person came in, and I'm like, man, this keeps happening. So like a month later, I see the show called Surviving the Cut, and it shows all the special ops training, all the unclassified version of it anyways. And I binge watched it, and I'm like, I went straight to the recruiter, straight there. Right when I binge watched it, I went straight there, and they're looking at me like, this guy has a BMW. Like, are you sure you want to do this? Like, hey, you're 29. You see, I'm like, this is what I want.
Yeah, you were 29. I didn't know that part of the story. Yeah. Wow. And well, so what did they go? Of course, sign. I'm sure they probably peppered you with a ton of questions. Like, are you really sure, dude? Like,
this is a funny story, actually. So I was going for Army, and I thought about the Green Beret contract, the X-ray contract. I'm like, but they're going to send me like in a month. So I'm like, I don't know about that, right? So I was going to do it anyway. If you don't go, then you make 11 Bravo, which is like infantry. But I was going to the bathroom. I was like, let me go to the bathroom real quick. And then next door is a Navy recruiter. And he walks in and you're usually general rule skip a stall, you know.
Yeah.
He doesn't skip the stall.
He doesn't
He
skip
comes
it.
Nope, he comes right next to me and stares me down as he's taking a piss. And I'm like, this is weird. I'm like, what is going on here, right? And I'm like, I wash my hands and I go back. I'm like, dude, the Navy dude was just like, didn't skip a stall and staring me down. They're like, oh, you know how the Navy is. They're on there with a whole bunch of, they just make a little joke and all that. And I'm like, that's wild, right? I'm like, whatever. So the Army guys, I'm about to sign my contract, like to go and go to Mets, basically. It's the last little part. They did all my paperwork. They did all this stuff for me for like about a good 2 weeks. And then I go out to my car, and then there he is out front of in front of the building, the Navy guy just staring me down again. I'm like, dude, this guy is wild. And he goes, hey, you come here. And I'm like, I want to see what he wants. I go up to him and he goes, can you swim? And I'm like, yeah, I can swim. He's like, no, can you swim? I'm like, yes. He's like, you know, black people can't swim, right? And I'm like, what? This guy's brave, dude. Like, what? But, he just says wild stuff. I'm like, yeah, but what the heck, man? And then he's like, well, what are those guys going to show you? And I'm like, well, I thought about going for X-ray contract, but then it sent me out like in a month. He's like, with our program, it's going to be 6 months. And you'll have a SEAL recruiter, and they'll talk to you, they'll prep you, and they'll come and train you for 6 months down at the local college here. I'm like, really? And that's how I got into the Navy.
Unbelievable. Wow. That's some divine intervention on some level.
Right.
For sure. So when you get in at that age, what are you thinking? Because I imagine most of the recruits are at least probably 10 years younger than you. What was that all like for you?
So like in boot camp, when I get there, it was, to me, I was expecting more. I guess I watched the movies or something. So I was expecting like more intensity, but I think I was watching like, Full Metal Jacket, which is
Yeah.
right? Because Navy is a little bit different. So we're like folding clothes and like making our bed. I'm like, yo, I need something to be a maid. Like, what is this? Like, so I was a little irritated for a little bit, but being the oldest person, no one knew I was older because I looked young, so they didn't know until at my age, but the recruiters knew. So they sent me down to a thing to be the ship's like person that like delivers things. And I didn't have a hard time actually being the older person, and I was in decent shape because I was trying out for that special operations thing, which I failed short of because my long distance run, I was like always 30 seconds, like right there, and didn't make the boot camp version of that, which there's a boot camp special ops that you go into and then go prepare to be the pipeline. So I went to regular camp instead.
So what was it? What was your role? What was your role in the Navy?
I was intel. I was intel. Yeah, I was called. My rate is a CTT, so a cryptologic technical technician.
Wow.
And I was an operator, not a tech, which is the person that fixes our antennas, we would say.
And as you're transitioning out of service, talk a little bit about that, because that's such a special thing. That's what a lot of vets struggle with, is you get a role, you get a duty, you get something you're focused on, a specialization, and then trying to bring it out back into the quote unquote real world, civilian corporate world. There's a disconnect, obviously, between what your role was out in there and what you can do out here, because people don't understand what you do.
Yeah.
To talk a little bit about your transition out.
So I think if I would have got out my first tour, because I did technically 3 tours. My second tour got split in half, but my first tour was just, I was on the boat, CVN-77 George Bush out of Norfolk, and just general military stuff, kind of a 9 to 5-ish. Obviously, you go out in deployment, go around the world, and then come back, show presence. Not a big deal. Not a ton of things happening in that situation. But I did a second tour where I tried out for special duty air crew. So I'm now a intelligence flyer. So now I'm in planes and I'm collecting, right, and going over countries and doing stuff like that. And we're a small unit, and and I was in it with a unit called VPU-2, a very legendary command. Apparently, I didn't know until I got there. And we're only 22 of us, and
Wow.
you had to write like your bio. You had to have the highest PT scores. They never accept anybody with low PT scores. You had to be basically a shit hot sailor, we would call it, basically, right? And I made it there, and I was in Hawaii on top of it. So going to that like elite, and then I got sent to a different command afterwards because I closed down that command actually. We had to decommission that command, and then going to a different command that has similar elite status and doing really cool missions. It's not just showing presence; you're doing an actual mission. And I love James Bond and missions. It's just so that is always what I wanted. And then when I got out for my son because I wanted to raise him, right? And I'm like, man, I went from doing missions to like teaching people how to squat. Like, what in the world? It's just, and the VA psych's like, you can't look at it like that. So it's been a little bit of a struggle because of that. I think if I got my first tour, it wouldn't have been a struggle. But the fact that I was like riding a high of something I always wanted to do, being a part of the elite military, being those things, and intel, very important role, like our liaison was pretty close to like president. Like it was just really surreal stuff, F-18s flying over the jet, like really like stuff you see out of movies. I'm literally get off mission at times and get off the plane, and I'll be walking a flight line, and I feel like I'm like on Top Gun, like walking through like a theater, like should be something, right? And it's just surreal in my mind. Like, dude, I would take moments in my mind of that. Like, this is like insane to me, right? And now I'm stuck in traffic,
Well, that's the thing, right? I feel like one of the other reasons I try to do that, I love to do the show, is because I feel like employers in general, if they would just take a moment to evaluate and really look at what you all have been trained on, and the level of structure, the level of integrity, the level of commitment and dedication, and the sheer level of the work ethic and what you have to do and the responsibility, if they could figure out how to equate that in the quote unquote civilian real world, I believe that the transition out would be a lot easier for veterans because, you're going from what you did high level. Mm-hmm. What did you say? Teaching people how to do squats, which I know you love, but it's still,
yes, I love the body.
I totally understand the thought process of wow. Yeah. So tell me how you landed on fitness.
So that was the thing. So the fact that I didn't make the cut the first time was because of a certain fitness component of my running, right? I was wondering why, like, man, why do I gas out so quickly, right? So I learned that my running mechanics weren't good. And then I also learned that, I'm more of a type 2 fiber, which is fast burst, able to jump higher, things like that, is quick fibers, quick twitch fibers, right? And I dove into it. I thought that was pretty interesting. That's really interesting, right? And then I started following a program and just followed it to the T and got the actual results. I didn't like cookie cutter it, right? And when I was and so I saw that also like blew my mind. And I've always been an enthusiast of the body, and I love mastering the body. Like Bruce Lee was my first like person I looked up to as a child. He says, I don't fear the man that knows 10,000 kicks. I fear the man that knows one kick 10,000 times, right? And he's, I followed all those things. I did martial arts as well. I'm in Muay Thai and Taekwondo, right? And I love the body and just mastering it. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to become a trainer as well. This makes sense. So I looked up the hardest cert I could find, and it was NASM, National Academy of Sports Medicine. And they update their library constantly, and they had a lot of good information. And I looked and see people are failing a lot, and I like that because I want to make sure that it's not just a McDonald's belt. They're just whipping them out and handing it and go on your way, right? I want to make sure that's something that's respectable, right? And I went through, I studied it thoroughly for like 6 months on my own and passed.
Awesome.
And from that point on, I've been on my journey 3.5 years.
So you're at New New Dimensions, which is
Yes.
where I feel very blessed to be. And I think people, I'm trying to educate people because, you know, I'm an older white male with no real activity. Doesn't matter what I am, I'm older. That's the first category that falls in. And so places like CrossFit, not to knock them, but that just didn't seem like that would be a fit for me because I really didn't want to go 0 to 60. I needed progress. And so when I was talking to Brantley and Justin, obviously, and talking about New Dimensions, I thought, wow, this is an interesting concept. Can it be real? And I knew those guys, so I knew it was. But you're still skeptical, right? You take somebody who hasn't really done anything. I mean, my phone yells at me sometimes and says, "Are you alive?" Because of the lack of activity that I have. But New Dimensions is different. So, and your approach is different. So talk a little bit about what you do at New Dimensions and how the whole alignment and movement are such a big part of it for you as a trainer.
So New Dimensions here, we go off of the gait cycles as humans evolved. We evolved we're a bipedal creature. Like we walk and we run. Everything is transferring the weight from one foot over to the next, right? And we go off of the fascia as well. The fascia has the most proprioceptors. Proprioceptors, I would say, is equivalent to your car having the sensors around the car. And when you get close to something, it goes beep, 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 you know, like it lets you know. And fascia has a ton of those. Up until like, I think, if I wasn't mistaken, don't quote me on the exact year, 2011, doctors used to just throw out the fascia during surgery. They thought it was packaging. And I thought that was like, wow, like once we understand what it is. So it incorporates the entire body. The fascia is like an entire suit. So with body alignments, say that your alignment is pulled down, say my shoulder is locked down and my other shoulder is locked up. Well, what my alignment therapist would do, they're really big into different types of massage medicine. They're going to break open that tissue. So say my tissue is locked up in my shoulder here, okay? And when it gets locked up, it's going to get knotted, right? And you get those knots in our fascia. Well, when it's time for me to lift, you'll see these lines pulling right here. I got to lift my shoulder. I can't go as high. And I'm like, oh man, I've never been able to get my shoulder up. Well, my therapist is going to look around, okay, and they're going to break that open, and now you can move freely because that fascia is released and opened up. And it don't feel good when they're breaking that scar tissue up, right? And then me, as a biomechanics trainer, movement specialist, I'm going to move your entire body as one unit instead of an isolated work, because we don't move in isolations. It throws off the balance of the body.
It's fascinating. Unless you experience it, you don't get it. The first time I thought, all right, alignment, this is awesome. I'm going to get to be on a table. I might walk a little bit, but the breaking up of that, taking whatever is in there and try to loosen it up and break it up. Yeah, it's like, feels like a workout sometimes, but when you get up, you feel better. And then the movement part, one of the reasons I love the movement part is because even if, to me, traditional workout, what you think of, you know, the machines, you know, that kind of stuff. What you all do is so different and so impactful in a short amount of time. And I love, like yesterday, you were in the room when Larissa was with me, and I'm thinking, this shit hurts. Like, I don't know what we were doing. But I understood, because of the way you all explain it and you educate us and you talk to us, I understood that was all part of the healing process, the journey, the progress, the opening things up, as you all say a lot. Yes. And so when I got out of that and I was on my way home, I thought, I feel so much better. And that's what I try to get across to people, is the way that you all approach things. I feel like, as coaches, as therapists, as trainers, it's just so unique in the world. Do you have a specific, like, I watch you when I'm not obviously we were in the room yesterday. Do you have a specific thing that you do as to do for you on a regular basis, like an area that you work on for Mike?
So I approach mine based off levels. Like with you guys is levels. Everything is like a level thing in my mind, right? So at my level where I'm at, I'm doing things based off a little bit of a mental health as well. I like to push myself to the brink at times and then let it come back, right? That's what I'm doing in my workouts. And now I have recovery workouts, which I'll be doing, or like I'm doing more myofascial release, which is like a foam rolling or a long swim, stuff like that. So it's based off what I need. But my general workouts, I'm going to be doing something like, I have a 150-pound like Atlas stone sandbag, right? And that's a lot of intensity. So that intensity, when I pick that up, my mind, which is the central nervous system, registers this is a lot. And it basically tells my, for lack of better words, testosterone, my nuts to be like, release the Kraken, and the testosterone opens up, right?
I love it.
So that is important, is when as men, when we do strenuous things, I read studies that when we do very strenuous, hard activity, whether it's mind or body, our body releases testosterone for us, free range testosterone. Yes. And once I learned that, I'm like, bingo, right? So it's like ancestry DNA. I call it caveman DNA. So yes. I would have you like, do very strenuous work. And instead of squatting with the 150 pounds, pick up that Atlas stone sandbag. That's 150 pounds. It's going to make your core stronger. It's going to make your entire body stronger versus an even barbell. No one says, hey, bro, come help me move my barbell. People say, come help me move my refrigerator, my couch. Awkward stuff, right? Yes. So that is an awkward movement. Therefore, it'll make you stronger.
As we wrap up, the thing I want to leave people with, obviously, I want vets, and let's talk about that. I want you, if you can give advice to a veteran who might be struggling with the transition out, they're trying to search for something. They obviously, it's a different world. What would you encourage them to do?
I would say you definitely need some introspective, in my opinion, of understanding what you need. Like seeing the VA psych can help, right? Definitely will. I mean, they assigned me one when I got out. I don't know if they do it to everybody, but they assigned me one for a while. So having that introspective, understanding what you need and finding a purpose. Yes. Because when we were in the military, we had a purpose. And so you'll feel like almost purposeless, and that can spiral out of control real quickly, right? That's why when I found New Dimensions, it helped me with purpose a lot. Even though I like the chaos and the crazy intensity stuff in the back of my mind, I still like that stuff. I still do have purpose. I'm still moving, just meaning you doing this, right? There's more to it than I'm doing now. So finding introspective to find purpose. And then from there, having an actual routine yourself that you can build that gives a little bit of challenge. Those are the two things I would do. That's what I do for myself. Like I wake up in the morning, I take my shower, I do a hot shower, but at the end, I end it with cold. If I do my workouts, I make sure I do a hard workout like I did in the military, something that's going to push me, not something that's like, okay, I do a couple bench press and I'll go do a couple squats. It's mundane, it's easy. Maybe I want to, take a ruck and, climb up a mountain with it or something. Or maybe I want to do an ultra marathon or something more that pushes you like we were pushed in the military and give you that sense of like, oh man, that release.
Yes, it's the release. And if you haven't had it, that's what you get. That's a great way to describe it. Even at my level, which is beginner. The release, I don't know how else to describe it. It's just, I have a post coming out today. It's miraculous. It feels magical, honestly. All right. So as we wrap up, I always like to ask a personal question, especially on this show. I think of all veterans as heroes. my opinion, no matter where you served, what you did, I'm just thankful for your service. When I say the word hero to you, who's the first person who comes to mind?
Hey, Bruce Lee is the first person that came to my mind, basically.
Okay. You shared a little bit, but tell us why.
When I studied different parts of his life and what he was, is like he was a philosopher as well as a teacher, guide. And he brought something to the world when they didn't want that to be brought out to the world.
Yes.
And it changed the course of history. And that's a hero to me, is standing up for things, regardless of the status quo is telling you not to do it, but you believe that it should, something inside you is telling you should do it, right? And, you know, he says, be like water, you know, be formless. And I like that stuff. I think it's really important in that. And that's, as a young child, hearing those things, it's just like, that's powerful, you know?
I love it that you remember it even from them. Then what an impact that's made on you. All right, Mike, what's the best way they can find you? We have your Instagram scrolling across the bottom, but you just tell the audience the best way they can find you and find out more.
My Instagram, MBYL Fitness. That is where you will mainly find me, or you come through at New Dimensions. I am the lead trainer here. So you will always be able to see me as lead trainer because I see all clients.
I love it. All right, my friend, thank you. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your journey and your story. Veterans, if you are struggling, please reach out to people. Reach out. We're all here to try to figure out how to get you into where you need to be. Mike talked about purpose, self-reflection. I think that's so critical and important. And we know a lot of vets struggle with that. And so we're here for you. And so if you know a vet that would like to come on the show and share their journey, please let me know. Mike, I appreciate you, you know, very, very much from the heart. And I will see you soon at New Dimensions, my friend.
All right. Appreciate it, brother.